I'm Richard Porter.
I'm Jonny Smith.
And this is On the Other Side of Things, the Smith & Sniff spin-off in which we answer your questions. Right then, well, some questions to be answered on a Friday. And I'm going to start with one from a listener called Ollie, who says, "Hello, you wonderful raging flautists. I need a recommendation for the cheapest possible manual, inverted commas, ordinary car that's genuinely fun to drive. Looks, rarity and pedigree don't matter, just maximum manual driving enjoyment for minimal cost.
Whoa.
What's your pick? Must be manual, under $3,000. Love to hear your thoughts."
The cheapest Spanish gearbox thrills. Okay, so looks, pedigree, rarity don't matter. Fun does matter, and obviously cost.
Is it, so I'm getting the impression that maybe Ollie sort of wants a car with a noticeably pleasant manual gearbox.
I'm guessing so. It has to be, doesn't it?
That would lead me to think that
BMW's in there.
Yes.
A BMW always has a lovely gear shift. It's one of the things that draws people to the propeller badge.
But they're very specific sort of, like, they're not the fastest gear changes, are they? They're quite
not
mechanical. But
yeah. So
honestly, I don't think you can go wrong with a recent-ish Fiesta for just a nice change and a nice car to drive.
Okay. So plenty of low-cost options there. BMW, it's probably going to be an E46 around the bit, or even a 1 Series, but you've got to be careful because they can be a bit abused. 1 Series is. I would also throw into the mix there, was he under $3,000? The Honda Insight, my Insight, has such a nice gearbox. I love the gear shift in that car, and it's most definitely not a fast car, but it's a satisfying car. And I know we always talk about Ford Focuses, old Focuses, but again, you could get yourself a 20-year-old Focus that's probably not done much work, and that would be an enjoyable car that will do a bit of everything. Yeah. Bit of fun.
Bit of fun, that's it. Honda make lovely gear changes, but just sometimes the rest of the car. So like a Jazz.
Oh, yeah.
Jazz has a delightful gear change, but the rest of the car is a bit pedestrian.
Do you know what? I'd get that. What's that? The fast Jazz that nobody buys.
SI. Was the fast Jazz for a while.
If you could find a Jazz SI, that is a jazzy. It's a great car to drive. It's just you got to get out and look at it. So I suppose as long as you don't mind that, it's fine.
What a Suzuki Swift Spout's down to now? Probably. Yeah. You might get a kind of ratty one for that, wouldn't you? But, they have a lovely gear change on it.
Ignis.
We mention the Ignis Sport sort of once every couple of months, don't we? Because it sort of somehow haunts us. They're quite hard to find, but if you do find one, yes, that's a delightful car to drive. If it's in all right condition. Yeah,
there you go, Ollie. Does that satisfy? That gives you things to go and search for, doesn't it?
A bit of food for thought. But honestly, I swear, if you just want something, he has specified ordinary. But that's genuinely fun to drive. And ordinary, of the last 2 shapes of Fiesta, they're really nice to drive. Just avoid wet belt issues.
Well, in life, in general, I would say.
Yes, always. If your belt's wet, don't put it on your trousers. They're going to ruin them.
Oh, awful. Okay, straight on to an email from Phil. Phil, firstly, if this gets read out, please only say my first name. Well, there you go, Phil, because I did.
Phil.
Hi, flautists of the SSG variety. In brackets, I've written and deleted this greeting 3 times because maybe I'm old-fashioned, but that sounded aggressive. However, it seems to be the norm for starting questions, so I'm going to roll with it and leave that greeting in. Okay, Phil, on we go.
I'm showing you're working there, Phil, but thank you.
When I was younger, back in the 90s, and we were forced to use Bang-O-nomics and always have cars on the cheaper side of things, certain games started to appear when people were driving around the town, especially when waiting at traffic lights. For example, the Love Tap. The love tap in inverted commas.
It's a little known place where we can get
Exactly. The love tap in inverted commas. When a person would nudge enough to make the suspension dip but not cause any damage. Or at a traffic light when you would see a bunch of people jump out the car, run round, swap places and get back in the car. Everyone would have a cheeky smile on their face, giggling like kids, and in some cases this would trigger a car run around Mexican wave. So my question to you two is, are there any games you used to play when you were younger to spice up town driving with friends? CMTMB. Phil. Well, Phil, do you know what? The love tap, obviously I'm just thinking about the B-52s in my head now. Are there things that we used to do? Well, many moons ago, we have mentioned mooneying because that used to be seemingly a thing. We used to sometimes wear bad hats. And we would we would carry some bad hats around and then just, like, in a bag, and then you'd open the bag and go, right, you're putting that one on tonight, I'm putting that one on, he's putting that one on, and you just wear some shit hats, and then you wear them for an hour or so and just stare at people at the lights, like make full eye contact with them with this totally straight face and just see what happened. So I used to enjoy doing that. And do you know, I might start doing that again. Is it too late to do stuff like that now? Did
he say the getting out, like everyone jump out and swap places in the car? Because I've done that.
Yes.
We used to do. Or sometimes, if you've got the tunes going, there was a really good tune on the stereo at the lights, everyone jump out and dance and get back into the car at the last possible minute. We've done that.
That's a great idea. Well, you can almost, you get out and run round the car and then get it back in the other side in a different orientation. Although a three-door makes that a little bit more challenging if someone's...
Definitely more challenging in a three-door.
Yeah.
A lot of... When I first learned to drive, sort of some mates had cars or had the use of a parent's car or something. There was a lot of knobbing around with, like, if you were in the front passenger seat, a really irritating game was that if you say at a junction... looking to turn left out of a junction. So the driver has got the car in gear, but clutch in, waiting for their moment. But they're looking to the right for the traffic. And the front seat passenger would just hook the car into neutral so that when they went to take off, this is potentially dangerous, but usually, as long as you're not on a hill, you just, what happens is then you go, and nothing happens. And it's just that humiliation of revving a car when it's not in gear as I think it is.
There used to be the handbrake tweak used to be something that would do. So the person in the passenger seat would man the handbrake, and as as the light was changing, they would tweak the handbrake so it almost dropped the back of the back.
Yes,
yeah. It's just so immature. But of course, you can't do that unless you've got a manual handbrake.
Yeah. This is a lost bit of childish idiocy. Also, I think probably slightly older, but if someone had a car with heated seats and it was a hot day, the front seat passenger, another game, just when they're not looking, just put their heated seat on, or just slowly turn the heater up on a hot day. So just idiotic, but the car's just getting hotter and hotter. Obviously, the game is the driver hasn't noticed that suddenly it's on maximum heat and it's 24 degrees outside. It's such a knobhead thing to do. But it's like, it's just, there's no consequence. It's just, oh no, I'm a little bit hotter than I want to be, you prick.
Do you know what? It would be like someone putting the air conditioning on in my car when it's winter. That would be...
I might try and do that.
Yeah,
next time I'm in a car with you, just put the air conditioning on.
All right, okay. We got a letter here from a chap called Michael Gardner, and he's from the USA, Richard. He's from Americas. He's put Smith and Sniff. Hi, I have envy when you talk about fun car finds for less than £1,000. When I look online for used cars of similar prices in America, it's usually absolutely falling apart garbage. When you finally make contact, do you think vehicle offerings in the UK or even Europe at low price points come from a history of 2 world wars and having to ration expensive items like cars? Has capitalism ruined the used car market in the States? I'm a self-admitted Euro spec American, which gives me a broad church of car interest. Keep up the great work, Michael. This is... So, I don't really know. I mean, because it's not like there are an abundance of cars in America, right? It's a huge car market. People dump cars and leave them in quieter parts of the States, and that's why people just drive around and find them, and there's barn finds and all that stuff. So I don't know whether it's to do with do American car owners tend to not look? Is there more of an abuse of the machine so that cars are damaged more needlessly and abused a bit more?
This puzzles me.
Yeah,
because I remember when they started making Top Gear US, the Rutledge, Tanner and Adam iteration. The plan there was to not remake, but certainly use the same story idea from a load of UK Top Gear items on the basis that most people at that point in the US had not even heard of British Top Gear.
Yeah.
And so, like when we did that film about, not all BL cars are bad, here's what I think is the best car they made. They did that with the GM and then extended the idea. So it was like at the end there'd be one winner, which they would then lobby GM to remake the way they had with the Camaro. So I was talking to the producer on the phone one day and I said, also, one of the things we did really early on that worked really well because it's so simple was just £100 cars. We just, it was amazing when people go, shit, you could buy that for 100 or less than £100. And he went, yeah, that won't work here because you cannot, there's no such thing as a $100 car or even a $200 car here.
There must be.
It was absolute just death trap, unusable stuff for like your sort of entry point, and this was years ago, your entry point, I think, to get something as serviceable as the 3 cars that we picked up for the £100 cars feature was probably closer to 1,000. And I was a bit like, I just don't get this. And I remember talking to, car literate mates in the US and still not being able to get to the bottom of this because most or a lot of states don't have the equivalent of an MOT test. So
yes,
you would think in a way that would drive prices up here, because it's naturally thinning out the pool because cars get thrown away for failing their MOTs if it's more expensive to fix than their value.
Yeah,
cars are more expensive to start with here, so that again, sort of, you'd think they would. Why have they fallen further then in the US? What is it? There are just more cars. I would say, I don't know the numbers, I'd have to look this up, but the per capita number of cars is surely greater in the US because...
It's got to be.
It's a huge place. There's not an awful lot of public transport or other options in an awful lot of the United States outside of major cities.
Yeah.
And even then, a lot of major cities still very car dependent in a way more than say London or Paris or
I'm quite shocked.
So I don't get it.
Yeah, I'm quite shocked because whenever I've looked,
I cannot explain this. I would welcome if we've got lots of very clever listeners. If someone can explain this, it would be great. hello@smithandsniff.com. But I cannot think of a really solid reason why even tatty but usable CAC in the US still seems to be a lot more expensive.
Do people break? Yeah, is the salvage industry very buoyant? Because obviously, parking cars in lines in a field and letting people come and remove parts from them—that's a bit old hat when it comes to salvage. Whereas over here now, cars are stacked on ladders, as it were, like what do you call them? Like frames, and then parts are removed and then sold instantly on places like eBay. So the dismantling nature of cars, the value in dismantling properly is higher. But I don't know. I don't get it. I mean, I've bought so many cheap cars in America, and I've looked at cars in America, Craigslist, bloody eBay, you name it, and I've found cars that you just go, well, that's not a lot of money. I think the bottom line is probably cars aren't being looked after as well as older generations of people in cars, because maybe when you bought a car outright, you cared for it more. And maybe all this does, Michael, is all this means is that you should be more friendly to old people in your community. Now, I'm not going to say the word grooming because I just think the connotations are a little bit sour.
Don't say that.
But what I am going to say is be nice to old people because you never know. They might go, do you know what? Listen, Michael, you seem like a nice guy. I've got a Buick Regal that I've had since it was a year old. I don't use it anymore because my hips are broken. So therefore, I just wondered if you'd like to see it, and maybe if you want to make me an offer. I'm thinking around the $300 mark. It seems fair. Garage door opens. Oh, shit. It's a Grand National.
Now you're just describing your fantasy.
I'm just fantasising now, aren't I? Stop it, Johnny. Stop
For context, I just have interest because it is sometimes when I'm bored, I'll just go on Auto Trader or somewhere and just go all cars and then set price low to high. And obviously, a lot of stuff that comes up is spares or repair. The cheapest car I can see on a very quick glance that doesn't have anything in its listing to suggest that it's not working, and it does say it's got an MOT until October, is a Vauxhall Corsa 1 litre 12 valve Life with 136,000 miles on it, and it's 300 quid. Now, that might be quite a good car for that money. I don't know. But anyway,
it could be awful.
You know, we were talking the other week about really bad car advert listings and things that are baffling.
Yeah.
There's a Mondeo here, private seller, 1.8 TDCi spout. It's 200 quid, and all the listing says is non-runner due to flat battery.
What?
Well, just put a new battery in or jump it.
Jumpstart
and then you
it.
don't have to list it as non-runner. I mean, it's just like, it's just baffling.
Well,
Anyway.
that's when my brother would say, stupid people ought to be punished. That's why you go round there and you say, I'm going to give you £80 and I'm taking your car because you're too thick to earn any more money from it. So just go.
But I was just trying to see if I could search out an equivalent in the US. So I've gone on to... it's really hard I can't navigate it because I'm not very familiar with it. And also, I've tried to do a price low to high, and it's immediately thrown up a Boxster S 550 Spider Edition. That's not very cheap, is it? Doesn't say a price.
But if you look at we were just talking in the previous letter about cars with satisfying gear shifts. That 1.4 Civic that I bought for my kids to drive, which still has an MOT. The gear shift in that car is lovely because it's up on the dash. It's really satisfying. Yes. And that's it's an early 2000s Honda. You can pick up a lovely one for that kind of money. In fact, you could pick up an SI, just like the Jazz. But I just don't... Yeah, I want to know why you can't... Maybe we should just go and bloody... Let's just go to America and see if we can find a $300 car that's not broken.
I just don't...
Come on.
The trouble is, actually, if you're searching American car listings, the problem is you put in, like, say, show me everything that's around $100 upwards.
Yes.
And based on what I'm doing here, it just lists loads of lease deals. So that muddies the waters.
It muddies the waters massively.
Looking.
Yeah, because.
But I know
they're out there, Michael. They are out there. I refuse to believe they're not.
I just think.
I tell what Americans do, which I'm very envious of. They have a good garage sale or garage sale. It depends on how you say it. And when you go to a garage sale, obviously it's stuff laid out on a front lawn and drive. And it's the sort of place where I always feel like if you play your cards right and you talk to other neighbours and you're very jolly, you could come away from a garage sale with a car. You could. You could go there and you're looking at kids' toys and, pictures and furniture, but actually you're sniffing around the really cool stuff like ride-on lawnmowers, motorbikes, that sort of thing in the back of the garage. And you think... you go, is the car for sale? Whatever it might be. And they go, no, it's not actually. You go, well, I'm always looking for, interesting cars. And you talk a bit about yourself. You go, well, it's funny you should say that because my uncle's actually got an old car that he's been talking about selling. And it's in his back garden. And his dogs have been using it as a toilet for many years. But it is actually, I think it's quite a nice car. It was. Anyway, we should probably move on to another letter, should we?
Yeah,
Rich?
I got an email here from a listener called Josh, who says, I have for some time now been rather obsessed with the Fiat Multipla. It all began a few years ago when I, along with 5 of my colleagues, had to travel halfway across the country to attend an important meeting. While making travel arrangements between us, I pointed out that it was a real shame that none of us owned a Fiat Multipla, as we would be able to travel together. I was swiftly uninvited from the meeting, but not before being called some variation of trouser salami. Since then, my fascination has grown beyond belief, to the point where I'm now regularly searching for early pre-facelift Multiplas for sale across the country. They have to be pre-facelift, before they quite frankly ruined the cartoon dolphin looks.
Oh, completely.
Dangerously close to making it look normal. Unfortunately, they seem to be harder to find than someone who has a 4D plate and isn't a complete belle. What I would love to do is create a Fast and Furious / Max Power / early 2000s / Pimp My Ride Multipla, complete with garish body kit, iridescent paint, ludicrous graphics, underglow lighting, hydraulic suspension, TVs in every door for some reason, and a PlayStation installed somewhere that is inconvenient. The recent discovery that Ronald teddy bears would actually fit on a Multipla has made this dream even more desperate, and the fact that it would quickly become the world's most hated car only adds fuel to the fire. I have, however, been reliably informed by my long-suffering girlfriend that if a Multipla ever appears on our drive, I will find myself single. My questions to you are, 1. Is it worth calling her bluff and buying one of these beautifully hideous machines? And 2, is there any other car that would be even more inappropriate for this kind of treatment? I did consider a baggy and flaky Shadow too, but as I'm not a disgraced entertainer, I don't think I'm legally allowed to buy one. Thanks in advance, you pair of tubular bells, Josh.
I love the Multipla. I think if you decorate it like that, it'll look like where most of Multiplas have gone in the last 15 years, which is on charity banger rallies across Europe.
Oh, yes.
Because I've been on a couple. I went on one where it was done up like an Italian police car, and all the guys driving it, all 6 guys using the 6 seats, were wearing police top end and very short tennis shorts bottom end.
No, that is how the Italian police dress in the summer.
It probably is, actually. Maybe it's just authentic. But needless to say, it got left in Skopje, I think it got left in. So I think that's what's happened. So the Multipla is very much going to soon be a rare but nobody cares kind of like, late 90s, early 2000s car. So
yeah, on
that basis, I would say if you can find one, I would keep it stock and just celebrate the oddity of it. Unless you've got enough money to do something wild, like a mid-engined conversion, like in a Spas F1 type of approach, or build a hill climb type car, which would be really cool.
What about a Fiat Coupe 5-cylinder turbo?
Oh, that would be amazing.
But mounted crossways where the back seats should be.
You know, if I was Matt Armstrong and I had the kind of YouTube power that he has, and he's obviously rebuilt so many supercars that have been crashed, I would just go, do you know what? Rebuilding cars that have been crashed by bellends is all getting a bit tedious. I think now what I want to do is get a Multipla, and I'm going to transplant the innards from a Ferrari. I'm going to go, I've got a crashed what mid-engine Ferrari should we go for?
Do you want a good
458?
One? Or a less good one?
458 is a good
why
one.
Not? Yeah,
I love the 458, and it's NA, so people can masturbate over the NA-ness of it. So that sounded wrong. You know what I mean?
NA is confusing because my brain goes to like North America or not available as other options on that. That's what I thought you meant. It's not available. Well, it is. You could just buy one.
Oh, I love that. Not you default to not available, so maybe we could call it a TNA, turbo not available. In other words, naturally aspirated.
Yes.
It's a TNA. Yeah.
TNA.
So I think it would be cool to do something like that. I do like them, and to drive, they're wonderful. The cabin's amazing.
Yeah, they are actually quite nice to drive, aren't they, from memory? And the weird thing is, as I was sort of reading this, and I was thinking about Josh's kind of vision for this sort of early 2000s spec, highly modded car. It's amazing how easily I could picture that. And part of me thinks it would look quite cool. Like, not sure about the Ronald teddy bears, but I don't know, what wheels would you put on a Multipla if you were going to sort of max it up?
I think, on the one hand, you go for the classic BBS split rim, the crosslace, but I think you'd probably want to go for a soft line type of wheel because it's that type of styling, because it's quite bulbous and soft. Yeah. Do you know what it reminds me of? The more I stare at the Multipla as time goes on, it reminds me of the Mr. Stay Puft Marshmallow Man from Ghostbusters. His face.
Oh, yes.
It's basically his face.
It's had a bit of an allergic reaction to something, hasn't it? I liked because
anaphylactic shock car.
Yeah, well, Josh described it as cartoon dolphin, which again I think is actually very good because he's got sort of very small eyes that.
It does have small
in his face, but
it does have very small eyes. Yeah, like a catfish that freshwater catfish that Americans eat. Yeah.
Yes, they do, don't they? I mean, I respect that you would like to keep a Multipla standard, but I can't help thinking this modification project sort of sounds quite amusing. But yeah, the biggest problem, I suppose, is just trying to find one because they are
hard to find.
Elusive beast these days, particularly the pre-facelift.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought that banger rallies had sucked up a load of.
Yeah, because they fit lots of people in, and loads of them weren't wanted. They were simply not wanted. I mean, a lot of MPVs have fallen into this trap. Remember, in general.
Yeah.
Because they carry lots of people and they became grossly uncool. But I think now I realise that whenever you get in an MPV from the sort of millennium era, irrespective of what they look like on the outside, the insides are so happy. It's such a happy cabin. I love that about them, and I do miss them. I will die on this hill. Okay, so just let me lie down and pass away, and I'll be like that cartoon character that is dying, but also trying to say something profound or reach for a sword. So I keep muttering, whilst not quite dying as quick as you'd expect. Got to reach the sword and unlock the door before the heart stops beating.
We've got time for one more question. I was going to read out this one from a listener called Mark Ellis. He says, while having a look in the random aisle of eBay, came across a Ford's Scorpio executive grade portfolio style sales brochure.
Oh,
with this high gloss double spread image. He's attached this. This is incredible. It's one of those full interior shots.
I love those.
He's done on a cutaway car. He says, it reminded me just how plush and lazy boy living room sofa sized the seats and rear bench were in these. If these had a manual variant, one could only imagine the chode of leather shift boot that had to be comparable to a pig in a blanket. When was peak living room furniture era exec spec? Is his question.
See, well, this image of this Scorpio, what is it, mid-80s, late 80s?
86, it says.
Yeah, it does look like those two seats from Friends, Chandler and Joey, with the lazy boy, when they kick those chairs out. Yeah. I remember those. See, back then, luxury cars weren't trying to have a sporty edge, and I wonder now.
Yeah.
The problem now is everyone tries to do everything in one car, and it's part of the little bugbear I have of SUVs. It's trying to do lots of things in one genre, and just there's no need. Just stop doing it. It's irritating me. So don't try and make luxury sporty. Just make luxury and make sporty sport. And if people can't commit, then people are just flakes. All right?
Because if you look at these Scorpio seats, they have got side bolsters, but they're not especially big, and the main part of the seat is incredibly wide and flat.
It's amazing.
And to your point, exactly that. It's not trying to be sporty. It's going, I'm comfortable. Come and sit on me and you will be comfortable. I will not hug you tight in aggressive cornering.
No.
So my advice, don't do any aggressive cornering. Just be comfortable.
Yeah, and if you're feeling sporty, go home, switch cars in the garage and get the sports car out. And that's that. I love travelling in friends' parents' cars who had plush cars. I remember sitting in the back and it just felt like you were on a full sofa rather than in a car. It just didn't feel like you were in a car. And I like that about it.
I would say Mark has kind of identified. I reckon we're pretty much in peak era here in 1986, but it definitely carried on into the 90s because a friend of mine's dad had a Peugeot 605 with sort of velour Parker Knoll chairs in it.
Yes.
And they were in fabric as well as in comfort and softness, uncannily like sitting room furniture.
Yeah.
So it definitely carried on. But I think also 86 or thereabouts, probably just a bit later, when the BMW 750 came in, so the E32 shaped 7 Series, and then they introduced the V12 with the wider nostrils, and you could have that car as an option with buffalo hide interior.
Oh my gosh.
And it just I remember seeing a picture of it in Car Magazine. It just looked like the most sumptuous thing I'd ever seen. It's ridiculous. And that's from that era. So I think, let's say mid-80s to early 90s is peak living room furniture. And then you're right, everything started to get a bit sporty and it spoilt things.
I think it has. It's muddied the water because people don't entirely know what luxury is anymore. We've got to remove things like Rolls-Royce Phantoms. But I'd say even luxurious SUVs, because they're trying to be sporty, there's bolsters and there's buckety seat shapes and that kind of thing. And you're like, no, I just want it to be plush. And that's why we need to go away from leather, go back to more interesting fabrics and make it more pillowy inside. It needs to be more pillowy. The French were so good at
pillowy.
It, weren't they?
Yes, it's true.
I mean, a Citroen CX, a late CX inside, goodness gracious me, it'd be like jumping into a children's adventure ball pool in the back. You disappear into the fabric. It would take you 30 seconds to find the belt.
Sorry I'm late, everyone. I couldn't escape the upholstery in my car. Yeah. And it was great.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think that's that for this. But if you have a question for us, it's hello@smithandsniff.com. It's the best way to get hold of us. On Johnny's behalf, I'm going to say, please don't send us an Instagram DM. There's too many of them. We don't
just email us.
But the emails, that's a controllable environment. We're just about on top of that. So hello@smithandsniff.com. We will answer more questions next Friday. Until then, goodbye.
Bye, please.